My name is Gabe Zollner. Anyone out there notice how this whole Benghazi thing sort of got real quiet and there's not a whole lot going on? And the reason there's not a whole lot going on is that the administration's up to what it's always up to. And what they're doing is they're diverting to distract. And the focus right now is on a fiscal cliff. And Obama, what he's done is he's turned pretty much 98% of Americans against the 2%. And what the 98% Americans seem not to understand is that they're in the frying pan the same as everybody and anybody else is. They believe that because Obama's given them whatever he's given them, they're going to keep getting it. Well, that's really not what's going to happen, I don't think. I think what's going to happen is that if the Republicans cave in, and I think there's a pretty good chance of that happening with the Speaker of the House, he's always capitulated and he's always given in to Obama's demands. If he gives in again, which he has to do over the next 3 or 4 days, if he's going to do it at all, then they've won. And when I say they've won, the Democrats have won. And what they'll do is they'll blame whatever happens on the Republicans, no matter what happens. And that's just how the game's been played. If you think back to this phony election, the Democrats did everything that they could to demonize and to drag Governor Romney through the mud. They called him a murderer. I mean, the thing was just totally insane. And what really has to happen, if there are any future elections, which at this point I highly doubt, but if there are any future elections, what we have to do is we have to revert to the way it was, not to the way it is. And what that means is that we have to forget about absentee ballots, unless, again, they're military stationed elsewhere, and those have to be certified and verified. No different than when you have to certify anything else. You try to apply for a passport, you have to have it certified. You can't just go ahead and send the documentation in because they don't take your word for it. Well, then why should we take anyone's word for it when somebody sends in an absentee ballot? We know that there were millions of forged ballots. And that's how you end up with so many of the incumbents staying in power, because it was fixed. Everything was fixed. So what has to happen is we have to get rid of all of absentee ballots. We also have to get rid of the voting machines. And the reason that is there's, first of all, there's no audit trail. There's no way of determining as to who really voted for whom, because the software can be manipulated, which is what I believe has happened. Now, I don't know if what they say is true, whether George Soros bought that company in Spain that counts all of the votes, but I wouldn't get all surprised. Again, they wanted to assure a win. And that's probably why the propaganda minister, David Axelrod, was willing to put his 40-year mustache up on the line, 2 or 3 days before he knew the fix was in. Anyway, the reality is that voting machines don't work, and there's no audit trail. The other thing that I think we have to do is we have to demand and require photo ID. If without photo ID, then again, we have no idea who's voting and how many times they're voting. And to eliminate people voting more than once, we have to revert back to what they do in other countries, like in Afghanistan and Pakistan. And that is, they employ this piece of high-tech technology. And once someone puts their finger into it, there's no way that they can go ahead and remove that ink for about 4 or 5 days. So they only have one vote. That's once they've registered and once they've shown that they are who in fact they say they are. And if there are any future elections, what that'll do is that'll show the real will of the American people. What we have now is the real will of the Chicago machinery, and that's really all we have. There is absolutely no way in this God's given world that Obama could have gotten the number of votes that he did. Apparently 10 million less people voted in this election than he did in the 2008 election. That by itself is surprising, with the $2+ billion that were spent on this election. Obama demonstrated his inability to communicate effectively without his teleprompter during the first presidential debate. Governor Romney, I think, sort of blew it because he backed off and he didn't maintain the same intensity. He didn't attack Obama for all of his weaknesses and frailties, unlike what Obama tried to do to McCain throughout the entire presidential election process. Anyway, so to recap, No absentee ballots unless people are in the military or they live in other countries. And whatever they do send in has to be certified, not only by their signature, but it has to be certified. Once again, no different than applying for a passport. There's nothing more critical than voting for a president. Number two, we have to go to paper ballots. Paper ballots provide a way of tracking the information that's been registered. Without paper ballots, we have no audit trail. We have to have an audit trail. Number three, we have to have absolute photo ID, verifying as to who it is and the fact that they're eligible to vote compared to what's on their voters list that they register with. And the last item, again, is this high piece of technology which will prevent voter fraud from occurring because the person will not be able to vote more than once. If all those four things don't happen, well, then you end up with what we've got right now. And what we have right now is a total fraud. We don't even know who he is. And I'm still hopeful that the judge in Alabama and or the judge in Florida will demand that Obama release his records. And I'd like to see Elena Kagan on the witness stand under oath, and I'd like to see what she has to say about what she knew about what she buried. As well, I'd like to see Nancy Pelosi, the Botox queen, on the witness stand under oath, and I'd like to see how she was able to vet someone that we knew nothing about. In either case, I probably think we're too late for any of this because I don't foresee any future elections taking place, and the reason that is I see Obama changing the Constitution or ignoring the Constitution as he has on numerous occasions already, and what I see him doing is extending or eliminating the 2 4-year terms. And he's such a narcissist that he will not let go unless he's removed forcefully. And the only way he can be removed forcefully is if it's proven that he was never eligible to run in the first place. I hope that the two judges prevail. I hope the American people prevail. And I hope that Obama and his administration are removed before they completely destroy this country. Thanks.